Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Rich Scheben's with us. Welcome, Rich Scheben.
Well, thank you, Vince. How are you doing this morning?
Well, since you mentioned
cars, I swear.
Well, since you mentioned cars, I was thinking about, class, no calls today. We have a full schedule. Rich Scheben has been preparing, and he's got lots of things to talk about. But first, I'd like to share with you what went wrong with America. I have some thoughts, so please pay close attention to the numbers. There will be a test at the end. I was born in the early 1950s and grew up in the 1950s and 1960s. Children were to be seen and not heard. Whining was not tolerated. Sissies were scarce. We said thank you, not thanks. Christmas was a holy day. There was no Black Friday. It really was Smokey the Bear, not Smokey Bear. Television was new, and not all homes had a $150 black and white TV in the 1950s. There were three major networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. 1 hour of programming had 2 minutes of commercials. Radio was a big thing. Everyone loved listening to the radio. We had people that we looked up to, respected, our parents, teachers, our doctor, our school principal, even the school janitor. We respected our parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and our elders. Profanity was not allowed. We knew that working hard and trying your best, perseverance, stick-to-itiveness, and honesty were the path to success. Perverts were exposed, beaten, and shunned. So were peeping Toms. The punishment for doing something wrong in school paled in comparison to what happened when your father got home. We did not plead not guilty when we did something wrong. We owned up to our mistakes. Milk and soda bottles were made of glass and were cleaned, sterilized, and reused. They didn't litter the highways, byways, and parking lots. No one threw trash out a car window, nor on the neighbor's property. Men were clean shaven. Ripped clothes meant that they were worn out and no longer could be repaired. They became rags. All women knew how to sew, cook, and clean. No one went to the store in their pajamas. Shoes had laces, and they were tied and polished. Shirts had tails, and they were tucked in. Hygiene wasn't just a word, it was a civic duty. Pants had belt loops, and everyone knew how to use them. No one wore flip-flops to school, the store, or anywhere else. When behind the wheel, the driver remained focused. First-class postage stamps were 3, 4, and 5 cents. People spoke using complete sentences and complete thoughts in English. We wrote letters on paper in cursive and then mailed them, and the reply would take a week or two. We talked on the phone with our voices. When we were told it was bedtime, it was bedtime. When you had an appointment, you showed up. The office didn't call to remind you. We learned how to tell time on a clock, and there was only one kind of clock, the kind with the hour, minute, and second hands. We wore wristwatches so that we'd be on time. We raised our hands in class, and it was an honor to be asked to wash the blackboard at the end of the school day. We read books, manuals, and magazines, and looked forward to next month's issue. We made book covers for our school books using used grocery store brown bags. We waited a week for that special television program that we liked so well, the one with morals and values, the one where the good guys triumphed over evil. Men's hair was short, and girls' dresses were long. Girls were concerned about how they look, and they didn't need makeup. We dressed up, not down, for school. Television shows were not rated for audiences at age levels. They didn't need to be. Anyone could watch anything. Having an after-school job was an honor, a sign of accomplishment and achievement, even at $1.15 an hour. The mechanic could live on the $5 per hour wage that he earned. That $10,000 a year could support his entire family. People were kind, courteous, honest, and helpful. Gluttony was a sin. So was greed. Christians did not pride themselves in overcharging their customers. No one was proud to charge the most for products and services in the village. Overcharging displayed greed, and no one wanted to do that. Parents looked out for their neighbors' children. The police were the ones that we trusted to help us in time of need. If we were cold, thirsty, lost, hurt, locked out of our car, had a flat tire, or needed someone to talk to, they'd help us. They knocked and asked permission to come in. When we grew up, we wanted to be a policeman. Products were repairable. Toasters and televisions, radios, washers, dryers, window screens, light fixtures, doorknobs, shoes, dresses, shirt collars, cuffs, zippers, buttonholes, eyeglasses, faucets, and knives were sharpened. Everything could be repaired, and someone in the family knew how to do it. When the television acted up, you would unscrew the 6 screws on the back cover, remove the vacuum tubes, and test them yourself at the store. You'd buy the ones to replace the bad one, install the tubes yourself. The whole job took about an hour, and the tubes cost between $1 and $3. In 1950, my father earned $5,200 a year as a teacher. He was paid $400 more than the other teachers because he taught science and music after school. He and my mother bought a new house in the 1950s for about $17,000. It had 2 stories, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, a garage, a stone fireplace, a kitchen, cedar shake siding, and all hardwood floors. To afford that house, my father bought his own hammer, handsaw, and a level. All Craftsman brand tools. Made in the United States. I still have those tools. He was hired on by the builder to help build our home. When it was done, he painted the whole house inside and out. He bought his own 32-foot ladder and 4-inch Craftsman paintbrush. I still have that paintbrush. We had an old car that my parents bought used for about $100. My father taught himself how to maintain and repair it. When we got a flat tire, my father would jack up the car, remove the wheel, dismount the tire, remove the tire tube, patch the tube, and pump the tire back up with a hand pump. My mother was a homemaker, and her number one job was the family. She cooked, cleaned, and took care of us. My father was the provider. My parents bought things that they could afford after they saved up for them. There were no luxuries. They bought few things, but quality things, things that we still have. Gasoline was 17 cents a gallon, and the attendant pumped it for you, checked your oil, and was delighted to wash your windshield. If you needed a quart of oil, you could buy one for 25 cents. The electric bill was $7, a car battery was $10, a doctor's visit was $4. Men married women, and women married men. There was no such thing as McDonald's. My mother made a meal to go. We didn't have soda, only milk, water, and juices. Candy was so rare, I only remember having it once. We said grace before each meal. Forgetting to say, "May I please be excused from the table," cost a nickel. Manners were taught at home. Starting a fight was not permitted. Finishing it was required. Hitting a girl was not allowed. Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter were a real treat for us. My grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, our family would go to our grandparents' house for the day. My grandmother would make a meal from scratch. It took all morning to prepare the meal. We didn't waste anything in our family. My parents grew up during the first Great Depression. Times were hard. There was no money, and most everything was in short supply or rationed. Everyone was in the same boat. Everyone took care to make sure everything they had lasted as long as possible. My boy's haircut was 25 cents. Coffee was made in a percolator. There were no disposable paper coffee filters. There were no K-cups. People didn't have much trash to throw out. We knew who all of our neighbors were. We helped them, and they helped us. I looked up our old house, the one that my father built on that 1/3 acre lot. It was knocked down and a new house was built about 20 years ago on that same lot. The new one has 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. It's currently appraised by Zillow at $2.1 million. The taxes on the property are currently $2,100 per month, or $70 a day, on the same property that our parents built our new home on 50 years prior for $17,000. Our taxes were about $88 a year. The annual property tax bill in the 1950s is about what the daily tax bill is today. The land that our old home sat on is now valued at $530,000. That 20-year-old home that replaced our new home is appraised at 71 times what ours cost in 1950. Today, the CEO of Coca-Cola makes 1,016 times more than the average Coca-Cola employee. Starbucks CEO makes 1,049 times what their average employee makes. Walt Disney, 1,424 times. Chipotle, the Mexican grill, 2,438 times. Mattel, the toy company, 3,408 times. Some of the Dow Jones Industrial Average companies are American Express, Apple, Coca-Cola, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, Travelers Insurance Company, Visa, Nike, McDonald's, Disney. Do any of these companies make necessities? And yet they are some of the most recognized companies in the world. Charities are doing well. Here's how much their CEOs make. American Cancer Society, $2.1 million. Boys and Girls Club of America, $1.8 million. Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York City, $1.5 million. The United Way Worldwide CEO makes $1.2 million. Goodwill, $856,000. Metropolitan Opera Association in New York, $1.3 million. After 5 years, a New York City garbage man averages $77,000 a year. Teachers in the United States average about $20,000 per year less than that New York City garbage man. A boy's haircut averages about $12. A men's haircut, about $28. The average cost of a doctor's visit today is $283. 47% of adults are currently jobless. 6 months ago, the average American, when he had a job, worked until April to pay his taxes. 40% of Americans think that one or both presidential candidates has dementia. So what went wrong with America? I just told you. Rich Scheben?
Wow. I mean, that was very well done, and you did something that was very politically incorrect, Vince. You told the truth. See, we're not allowed to tell the truth today because we are supposed to be bailing out the rich and creating propaganda, hoaxes, false flags, lies, and gaslighting to subdue and make the people submissive for the agenda of managing control of the people. And that's really where it's going. And like there's 2 articles right in front of me here. The Fed is bailing out Apple, Microsoft, Berkshire, and I went into this article and read it. They're bailing out everything, all the ETFs held by BlackRock and Vanguard, AT&T, Chevron, Ford, GM, PayPal, Walmart, Berkshire Hathaway. Who is that? Warren Buffett. No, basically, as long as we keep printing money, we're going to have more of a divide and less middle class. And I mean divide of wealth. And this is why we have to go back to the truth. We have to go back to the old ways. We have to go back to standing for principle. And we'll be back right after the break, folks.
Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, please continue.
Well, thank you, Vince. And again, that was very well done and to the point. And a lot of people don't want to purposely remember the past. But we have to because it shows the direction that we're going in. And we've talked about so many things, and I have so many articles, and I'm going to start out with one right now. And it states, famous environmentalist finally admits the truth. He's apologizing for lying about the climate scare for the past 30 years, and there's a lot of specificity and details in that article. And I don't have time to go over a whole article, but basically, when we give free lunch to the elite, they basically are going to create more and more wealth inequality. And as we demand to lower the bars of standards and expectations for a job, as we demand to eliminate the rule of law, we are enabling and protecting the most corrupt government entities and big corporations. We're giving them liability immunity to do anything. And they're going to start with divide and conquer strategies. And they're going to have entitlements for their, and big inheritance for their nepotism and their connections. But they're always going to present money to some of us so we can sell out to the highest bidder, while they manufacture perception of their own self-importance and self-preservation. And this is why we talk often about hypocrisy and double standards and brainwashing, because we are in an era where I see a lot of people giving up, and I see people rationalizing now, justifying certain behaviors. And they're saying things like, "Oh, young people ain't going to know the difference. They're so dumbed down in schools. They're not going to know what freedom and liberty was like. So they're not going to know the difference. The schools and the powers that be are eliminating history and rewriting it. They're not going to know." Well, yes, they will, because they're human. Okay, they listen, they talk, they communicate, and a lot of these Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and unemployment, where we have close to half of young people not working, is despair, because too many of the silent majority isn't standing for principle. When you look at all the unit of measures of despair that we've talked about in great detail, increase in drugs, increase in suicide, increase in obesity, follower behaviors being addicting, and the powers that be recruiting followers in lieu of thinkers. No balance between technology and nature. We are so easy, or certain people are, to be sold out to buying the narrative of the week, or of the day, or of the hour, and literally turning their back on facts and truth. So what we're doing is we are allowing the elite to make us accept a totalitarian, tyrannical policy, which in every aspect, like Vince was saying from the before part of his monologue to the after part at the end, we are basically lowering our bars of standards and expectations. And it's measurable. And today's youth can see it, even though they might not admit it, even subconsciously. They're seeing it because these unit of measures of despair wouldn't be so evident today. Psychotropic drugs up. All antidepressant medication drugs up. And if you read the package inserts, and that's why the package inserts are getting so small, because the side effects, the adverse events, and the contraindications, they don't want you to know. It's almost the size of microfiche. You need a magnifying lens to read it, because they don't want you to know that it increases the chance of suicides amongst many other things. So what happens when we recruit followers versus teaching thinkers? We have consequences of inaction towards political correctness. That leads to no justice. It leads to death, destruction, treason, sedition. It leads to, well, let's not really put any effort into America. Let's just think about ourselves all the time. And I always make the disclaimer, every one of us is an imperfect sinner. Every one of us. But we have to think of what happens when we don't react towards political correctness, Alinsky, Marx, Cloward and Piven, Frankfurt School, obvious ways that they're changing us. We'll be right back, folks, right after this.
Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, please continue.
Well, thank you, sir. And again, I always appreciate you allowing me to exercise our First Amendment right, where so many millions of combat soldiers died for our right to do so. Now, going back to what I was saying about the consequences of inaction towards political correctness and no justice and recruiting followers, the wealthy elite basically are trying to take down the masses of people. They're planning hoaxes. They're planning fake hate crimes. I'm going to go through some of those articles later in the show. It's just more than just a big tech takeover. So what we need penalties. We need penalties for geoengineering man-made bioweapons. We can't have patents on diseases and vaccines, especially before the fact, because it's pretty obvious the direction things are going. And we have the arrests are too limited. Thousands of people should be arrested by now for treason, sedition, looting, rioting, not dozens and hundreds. You know, a lot of this is planned, folks. It's been planned for decades. When you have the wealthiest people in the world meeting at Davos, Switzerland, and other places, whether it be a Bilderberger meeting or a Fed meeting, doesn't matter. Okay, basically, they're meeting to control and manage the people. And let's go back to the 1970s for a moment. Remember when the Democrats were red and the Republicans were a blue color? Well, that was, from my research, they changed the colors back in that era because it was planned the Democrats were going to be the communist takeover, and they didn't want to be associated with red. So as long as they continue to use divide and conquer strategies against us, never mind distract us and dumb us down, which we've given thousands of examples and evidence and articles and economics and math to prove this point over the last 9 years on the air. As long as we keep defending our group, our hyphen, and our pronoun, we're not defending American freedom and liberty and the rule of law. They are motivating us in so many ways by fear. Now, I'm going to mention a few things that was just mentioned on the last break for the news. I'm going to talk about COVID-19 a little bit here because that was again mentioned. So I'm going to mention a few articles here and show, and just keep in mind, fear is a big motivating factor. Do you remember back speaking of the 70s, the 70s was a great time, okay? Best music, best movies, best music by far, okay? They're still using 1970s music in today's movies. And it was just fun. It was fun growing up in the metropolitan area of New York City. It was fun driving north to the Beaverkill River in upstate New York and fly fishing. It was fun. We had the best of all worlds. And now a lot of our freedoms are being squelched for the wrong reasons, for the agendas of the virus in order to take out Trump, take out the patriots, create forced austerity, crash the economy, delegitimize work, eliminate free market supply and demand, stop peaceful assembly, hide Joe Biden in the basement, eliminate peaceful riots, make us submissive with social distancing, domestic violence, division, chaos, infighting, depression, all going through the roof, starvation and food shortages, depopulation events, free speech being eliminated, forced vaccines for immunity passports. I'm going to talk about some of those articles today too. Forced lockdown, house arrests, 5G towers going everywhere, eliminating our immune system. You know, we have to, too many people take subjective emotional opinion and say, oh, that person hates black, that person hates Hispanics. Even though Elon Omar says Latinos can't compete in the merit-based system. The Democrats insult blacks, Latinos, females, homosexuals, transgenders. They insult them with condensate, with so much stuff. I mean, almost everything that comes out of their mouth is are insults, are indirect subliminal insults towards every group. And I'm going off into a tangent here. Pardon me, I digress a little bit here, but let me mention some articles regarding COVID-19 that was mentioned on the last break. Okay, Texas hospital CEO, patient count misinterpreted, level of alarm unwarranted. Next article, busted. NIH owns financial stake in Gates-funded coronavirus vaccines. I'm not making this up, folks. I promise you. This is the real These are real articles published in the public domain. Welcome to the new pathologized totalitarianism, and basically it talks about China and pigs and a new virus that may be unleashed to the world. Next article. New flu virus with pandemic potential emerges in China. Basically, I think those are similar articles. Next article. There's a UN joke in here somewhere. Basically, a UN vehicle was parked on the side of the road with other people in the car, other men, and a guy was in the back seat having sex with this young lady. Now, we're supposed to be social distancing, and again, most people don't give a damn who has sex with anybody, but when we have to fund the UN through taxpayer monies by printing money and creating inflation and creating taxes, and the bottom 93% are living paycheck to paycheck and day by day, why are we funding an organization? It has nothing to do with sex. It's just the fact that they are doing this and they're telling us how to live and they're not practicing what they preach. Why should we be funding these organizations? Next article. Breaking. States ordered to fraudulently inflate COVID-19 cases 15 times the actual rate. Next article. Fauci removes the mask when the cameras disappear. Now, what are the purposes of all this confusion? Oh, it's left or it's right or it's up or it's down. Oh, do this, but don't do this. Oh, you should be living like this, but we shouldn't because we're from a certain group. Where are they going with this? Who's going to benefit? Well, here's this pharmaceutical company who creates that drug remdesivir. They're charging more than $3,000 for a regimen of it. And guess who's paying for that? We're going to be paying for it multiple times. If somebody can't afford it and they're on welfare and food stamps and they can go into a hospital or ER for free, and we have to pay for the cost shifting. Next article. 2022, a vaccination passport. The EU keeps quiet over suspicious documents. Can you connect the dots with the agenda, folks? Next article. Mass tracking of COVID pass immunity passports to be rolled out in 15 countries. They're going to use contact tracers. They are going to use technology to basically look at every move, every purchase, every sale. Everything is going to be controlled, and the agenda will be the elimination of America, of free speech, of liberty, of freedom, and the little people will not have any control of their destiny. When I say little people, I mean at least the bottom 93%. Okay, I'm going to go to some other articles here, news in a flash, as Vince calls it. Oakland mayor, not just to fund the police, but replace the police. And I got to mention, folks, I'm reading articles about politicians who are demanding to remove the police, literally hiring private security who are armed to protect themselves, and they're spending thousands of dollars per day to do it, but they're being protected and you're not, and you're paying for it with your taxpayer dollars. This is how the black shirts, the brown shirts, the SS, this is how all of it got started. And history is repeating itself. Next article, top Dem donor to pal to Epstein, Clinton, and Gates leaps to death from 27th floor apartment. Now, did he leap to death or was he helped? I think there's a lot of people getting very nervous because these declassifications need to come out. All these Epstein names who have went to these islands and his private ranches need to come out. And Mr. President, if you do not declassify all the things that the people have been asking for shortly, not only will you lose, but America will lose. All this information needs to come out, and it needs to come out now, and it needs to come out fast. I understand the trickle effect of waking the people up incrementally, but now we're almost at the point where it's too late. The names, the declassifications need to come out, sir. Next article. Postal worker trashes GOP campaign flyers. See, 90%, this is another divide and conquer strategy, folks. 90% of government workers vote for the Democrat Party because they have huge paychecks, huge benefits, huge pensions, which are all underfunded, and we have to pay for it. The people who are getting pennies for Social Security have to pay for the government pensions who get 10, 20 times the monthly salary that people on Social Security do. Next article. It's 2020 and homosexuality is still punishable by death in these 10 countries. And the 10 countries, by the way, folks, are in Africa and the Middle East. And guess what? They have a lot of clout and power in the United Nations. So for all these people who are voting Democrat, you're going to be in for a big surprise when we head towards Sharia law. Next article. Very fake news hate crime hoax. FBI concludes alleged noose was NASCAR Bubba garage door pull rope. You know, it's unbelievable. You know, just like the things that are racist, folks, I want you to remember, let's go back in time because they hope we don't have memories. Remember the things that they called racist years ago? Trees on a golf course, bulletproof glass, yoga, Disney movies, Elizabeth Warren being called Pocahontas when she used that she was a female with American Indian native blood to get jobs. But they called Ivanka the C word, and I think we all know what that means. Milk is racist. Remember, whites don't have enough lactose intolerance, and milk is too white. Remember that? How about science? Remember they said black magic can't be explained by students in South Africa, so that's racist? How about math, camouflage, Lucky Charms? Expecting people to show up on time, even for their job in commerce, and saying you're not racist was racist. Folks, they are using us and poisoning us against ourselves for their own personal agenda of controlling us. We're giving the elite free lunch. We'll be right back after the break, folks.
You know, it's really nice having a pretty, well-dressed lady in the White House. Rich, even back to you.
Okay, well, that was, I don't disagree with that at all. But, okay, let me go back on point here. And, folks, when I talk about things, you know, like when I was going through these articles with the COVID-19 and Fauci, these aren't articles that I make up, I promise you. You know, Fauci changed his mind 8 times. How do you control people? By fear. Remember that Jaws analogy or example? When the movie came out, I believe, in the 70s. Remember how people didn't even go in the water at the beaches? Very few did. That's how they control the people, is through fear. And even Dr. Shiva had the guts to go on, he went on the Next News Network and a lot of networks on the alternative media, and he warned about Dr. Fauci. He warned about how he created bogus science, wasting billions of taxpayer dollars. He even talks about Zuckerberg and Gates being fake. You know, these are what, these are the people who are heroes. People who are whistleblowers, people who have intelligence, who read and research, who stick up for the American rule of law. You know, just like when I talk about Black Lives Matter, it's not to delegitimize black people. It's to show that BLM is not a legitimate charity. It's to show that it's a money laundering shell company for Democrats. And look up Act Blue. They are literally bankrolling Democrat candidates. It's not legal to do this. So everything is basically a lie, gaslighting, propaganda, a hoax. And I'm going to go through some of these hoax articles here in a moment as well. Okay, next article. Harvard epidemiologist. 50% of Mexicans tested for coronavirus are positive. Now, there's a lot of things to talk about here. Do you remember all those, remember the field hospitals in Brooklyn and the boats in L.A. and they basically might not have even been used, or if they were used, it was very limited. I'm not saying this is not a real virus. I'm saying there's a lot of controversy and doublespeak around this whole thing. But the only thing that's very obvious to most of us patriots is the agenda that they're trying to pull in order to crash the American economy and crash America. Never mind the rule of law. So we have to be aware of what the game plan is, because they're playing chess looking 4 or 5 moves ahead, and we're reacting with subjective emotional opinion too often to what they say and not what they do and what they're trying to do down the road. Next article. Mugshot. Black man caught defacing gravestones with swastika. Next article. Hate crime hoax. Black man responsible for racist graffiti at university. Next article. Sacha Baron Cohen caught on video staging anti-Semitic stunt to smear Trump supporters and basically create more race antagonism. And he was caught. See, everything today, folks, is a hoax. Everything is to create subjective emotional opinion and get into our emotions. And sometimes we have to step back when we hear something or read something and do more investigation and verify and see why that article came out. Because 99% that comes from the mainstream media, from Hollywood, from the Democrats, is all designed to divide and conquer us. If racism wasn't an issue, why did Fox News fire Diamond and Silk? Why would they keep Donna Brazile, who rigged a presidential debate for Hillary Clinton? How come when information came out that Obama knew about the terrorist-planned Benghazi attack 10 days in advance, how come all this treason and sedition is not being enforced? Oh, speaking of treason and sedition, Ukraine. Biden and Soros stole $1.5 billion from Ukrainian taxpayer. Next article. Strzok notes reveal Obama-directed Flynn investigation. Biden raised Logan Act violation, which is basically saying that a citizen can't do diplomacy in foreign lands. And even Comey's notes said it looked legit. Everything is a setup, folks. Flynn was totally set up. And here's a couple articles. Sidney Powell, Flynn's lawyer. Michael Flynn planned to audit intelligence agencies before FBI prosecution. Next article, Sidney Powell. Flynn was targeted over a plan to investigate John Brennan's $1 billion CIA slush fund. You see, folks, there's always something behind the scenes. We are being used, we're being played, we're being conned against each other. We'll be right back after the hard break at the top of the hour. Thank you for being here.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepared. So I asked the question, why is Elon Musk not in jail awaiting manslaughter charges? Where are the protesters? For the drivers and the passengers. Drivers and passengers' lives matter. What I'm talking about is Tesla vehicles have crashed into non-moving objects. In December, that's quite a while ago, of last year, a Tesla Model 3 was on autopilot, and it was traveling down the road on Interstate 95, and it crashed into a Connecticut State Police cruiser. The police cruiser was pulled over because a vehicle was having mechanical problems. So a vehicle was pulled over. The state police cruiser pulled behind that vehicle, lights on, and behind that comes this Tesla Model 3. And it crashed into the police cruiser and the car in front of that. Where is the anger about these Tesla vehicles being manned and womaned by people who aren't paying attention? They're checking on their dog in the back seat. They're looking around. They're reading. I don't know what else they're doing. But why? Where's the outrage? How come there's no protest circling Elon Musk's house? How come? When I see a Tesla vehicle, and I've seen them, and the women get out of them in Springfield, Missouri, my mind instantly wanders to how arrogant, how ignorant, how self-centered, how reckless, and how dangerous those people who own these vehicles are. Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage by the people who eat products that come in jars, boxes, and cans, and pouches? Where's the outrage when the ingredients are hidden from us? Where's the outrage? The same government that tells us if you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to hide. That's at the data center in Utah. If you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to hide. Okay, so what's in the package? Why is that being hidden? What's in the jar? Why is that being hidden? Why is the country of origin hidden from us? Why? Why is there no restitution? Why is it that we can't call the government and say, do you realize that people are getting choked? They're being harmed. They're being sliced, mutilated by these defective products. Why aren't you protecting us from that? Actually, what actually do you do? Where's the outrage? But if you have to start someplace, why don't we start with Elon Musk's motorized missiles? Electric motorized missiles. Why don't we start with that? How is it possible? How is it possible that people who approve things would say, okay, that's a good idea. We don't need anybody behind the wheel. We'll just let this thing go by itself. What a great idea. Who approves these things? And how come those names aren't on a list? How come those people's names aren't on wanted posters? How come those people's houses aren't being protested? How come? I don't get it. We're going down.
I can connect the dots for you, Vince.
That'd be great.
Okay. Well, let me start, and I want you to bear with me. I will connect these dots. Here's an article. Facebook Insider Company allowed users to demonize whites, men, and cops. Now, bear with me here. How come there's never talk from the mainstream media or Hollywood or anybody in the Democrat Party about confiscating the money of Elon Musk family, of Bezos, Zuckerberg, Gates, Buffett, Rockefeller, Rothschild, all the whites and then especially the white males in Hollywood, and Anderson Cooper, the Vanderbilt family, Cuomo. I mean, we can go on and on and on. You know why? Because the war is against poor and middle class white men. Okay, because that's the narrative. And I've talked about this so many times. And basically, it's the delegitimization of work. When you have certain groups demanding to lower the bars of standards and expectations for a job based on what group you're in, hard work, proven results, qualifications, nothing matters anymore, okay? So the same people, when they demand no protection rights or restitution under the rule of law, now you have no rule of law. So lawyers and judges basically they've sold out to the highest bidder because there's no check on runaway power. And when you do all this, this is what you were talking about in the beginning. We are enabling and protecting the most corrupt companies and industries in the world. We have given liability immunity. No capitalism, no supply and demand, no enforcing of any law or fraud, total illegitimacy, total fascism, and this is why we have wealth inequality. See, this is all connected. When you have people, when the powers that be divide us, and we allow certain people to insult their own group hyphen and pronoun, then nothing matters. Work, nothing matters. Proven results and qualifications, nothing matters. Rule of law, nothing matters. We have given liability, immunity, and free lunch to the elite. So when they talk about all this white male stuff, it's all a cover-up. They don't care about blacks. They don't care about females. They don't care about homosexuals. They don't care about transgenders. They don't care about anything as long as they can take your money and get your vote and divide us along the way. And as we stay divided and as we basically look the other way, like you're saying, all these products and services that are killing us, and none of these people are going to jail. I just told you why. This is what happens when work gets delegitimized decade after decade after decade. This is a direct answer to your question. And then we have the powers that be literally manufacturing their perception of self-importance and self-preservation while giving us a plate full of hypocrisy, double standards, and brainwashing, while they're killing us biologically, chemically, and technologically, and psychologically, and allowing the elite to poison us against ourselves. And we are not giving a proportionate response. Even though the people are waking up exponentially, there's not enough news about this. So what they do is they take the people who don't read and research, and they give them talking points like, that person hates blacks. Oh, that person hates Latinos. Oh, that person hates females. Oh, that person hates homosexuals. Oh, that person hates trans. And then this is why you get these words that don't even mean anything anymore. Racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, intolerant, violent, hater, conspiracy theorist with an anti in front of every word and ism, ist, and phobia on the back of every word. This is what we got because we have allowed the consequences of inaction to be a runaway freight train going downhill towards political correctness. You can't get justice. You can't get legitimized work. You can't control your own destiny. And it turns into where death, destruction, treason, sedition, all the way down to suboptimal products does not have consequences. And this is all planned. They've telegraphed every part of their agenda, and people are so afraid to speak up. And that's why the alternative media have literally, and the patriots and conservative authors are doing the work that the mainstream media, the elite, academia, lawyers, judges, politicians, bankers, intelligence agencies, State Department won't do. And they're ironically using our money, our taxpayer dollars, for their cover-ups and to blame Trump and the Republicans for their treasonous, seditious acts. It's just like, how come the MSM and the Democrat Party isn't indicted? All this Russia, Ukraine, Stormy Daniels, Mueller trial. I mean, it's beyond a Cold War. They want to make a civil war. The DOJ, the FBI, NSA all helped Hillary Clinton and the DNC collude with Russia, especially Uranium One. Nothing happened. We have a failed presidential coup, several of them. Treason, sedition, espionage, racketeering, censorship, surveillance, crimes against the First and Second Amendment, ignoring antitrust monopoly laws, FISA fraud, on and on and on, and nothing is getting done. I mean, here's an article right here. Mueller witness gets 10 years in prison on child sex charges. That's called pedophilia, folks. So look at the credibility of these people who tried to frame Donald Trump and spend hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, of your taxpayer dollars for phony hoaxes, frauds, and propaganda. I have an article here. Charges filed after 1 in 5 mail-in ballots found to be fraudulent in a New Jersey City Council election. New Jersey Democrats charged with mail-in voter fraud. Folks, if we submit to vote to basically election and voter fraud via mail-in ballots, we might as well just change our name from the United States of America to something else, because it's all going to be irrelevant. Next article, Iran issues arrest warrant for Trump. Okay, you know who Iran is, right, folks? They got $150 billion of cash on pallets from Barack Obama. This is the country who issued an $80 million or $80 billion, I can't remember, a reward to kill Trump. Next article, Treasury sent $1.4 billion in stimulus payments to dead people. You can't even make this stuff up. And I want to talk a little about a few articles about China real quick. 83 tons of fake Chinese gold bars discovered. Markets rocked. Folks, if you are convinced that gold-backed digital currency, especially from China, is the way to go, how about all that fake gold they use as collateral for debt? If we go that direction, folks, it's all over. We'll be right back after the break.
Even if my numbers are right, about 171 billion tons of gold exist, and half of that, 83 billion, is fake. Hey, I just heard it. It's not Smokey Bear. It's Smokey the Bear. I still can't get it right. Don't you remember, Rich? It's Smokey the Bear.
I do.
And it wasn't only you can prevent wildfires, it's only you can prevent forest fires.
Yeah. No, you actually mentioned that fact in your monologue this morning.
Yeah. Well, you know, I got up in the middle of the night and I just couldn't sleep. I was kind of fidgeting, and I thought, gosh, I can't stand it. I just can't stand what's happening all around us. Nothing's working. Nothing is working. They're now, the highway patrol is now stopping people in our little village of 100 people. They're, for things like taillights. Now explain to me, please, why the state police are stopping people in a village of 100 people for taillights out. Really? Why? Why are our neighbors being harassed? Well, I guess they're low on funds. And I guess maybe the sergeant said, hey, y'all, listen, I want you all to be safe today. And, oh, by the way, we may not have enough money for gas for your vehicles. So, you know, if you increase productivity, maybe we can get you some gas. What the heck is going on? Look, I live in the middle of nowhere. There are potholes there are holes in the road that are 4 feet deep. If you don't pay attention, your car's going to get swallowed or flip over. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding you. Right on our dirt road, cars flip over onto the roof because they don't see that the road has eroded and it's not where it was the day before. So the roads are so bumpy that if you have an incandescent light bulb in your car, you know, the way they used to make them, or your trailer, and it bounces along the road and your lights are on, there's a likelihood that the wiring harness, the socket, the bulb filament, any of those things can fail. But rest assured, there's somebody willing to pull you over and check your documents to make sure you're all safe. That's what's going on right here. It's nuts. And why don't I go to the county seat, if you want to call it that, of the county where I live? Because they've got the police ready, willing, and able to stop me for a taillight that's out. I don't go to town anymore. People say, Vin, hey, I haven't seen you in a long. How come you don't come to the bank anymore? What, are you kidding me? You got the cop at the bottom of the hill. Just after I travel through all those potholes. So they don't maintain the road, and then they ticket you because their lousy road beats up your wiring and lighting. That's what's going on. Counties, towns, cities, states are out of money. They've shut down the country. And they will not do the right thing, which would be fire 90% of their employees. We don't need them. Well, New York is starting. New York City, it's a good start. They're gonna start laying off about 20,000. That's a really good start. 100,000 would be a better start. And the Chinese, Rich, this is a pretty serious thing. These guys lie, cheat, steal, con. I'm talking about the Chi-Coms. It looks like, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like this 83 tons of counterfeit gold bars, that's half of the supply of the world right now. The supply is 170. Yes, physical supply. That's above ground. I believe 171 tons is the amount that's above ground, and 83 of it is counterfeit. And what you said is absolutely right. So 83 tons has been pledged as collateral for loans. And the collateral's bogus. It's tungsten and or copper.
Yep.
With a gold foil around it.
Yep.
And if you don't know, you don't know. And I have a friend, when those things come into his coin shop, he saws them in half. He wants to see what's in them. Why would he do that? Because there's so many counterfeit Chinese gold bars and coins. So I looked up Smokey the Bear, and what do I find out? They say it's Smokey Bear. It's Smokey the Bear. They say it's Smokey Bear. They're wrong. And then they say only you can prevent wildfires. Well, that's not right either. It's only you can prevent forest fires. But I found it. Okay, I did find the reference to Smokey the Bear, and only you can prevent forest fires. Why am I stuck on this? Because if you lie often enough, people will believe it. And it's all over the internet that it's Smokey Bear. It's not Smokey Bear. It's Smokey the Bear. And that's what's happening to us. We're being lied to at every turn, including something as simple as Smokey the Bear. Why can't they tell the truth? Why? Why is it so hard? Rich Scheben and I mentioned months ago that this situation in America is going to continue getting worse. And I believe that it won't start to see resolution for decades. I still believe that. I don't believe we're getting out of this very easily, very quickly. I don't think so. I've heard, if you talk about the COVID panic, I heard that it would blow over in 3 weeks. That was months ago. Nope. It's just getting worse. It's like COVID plus the oppression, the resistance to the oppression, the resistance to the lies, the news saying left, right, both. I'm not talking about political directions. I'm talking about you can't tell what's what. We can't make decisions. We don't know if it's going to rain or not. The weather report said it's going to rain. It's going to rain. It's been weeks. We are in a massive drought here. I think any farmer who's paying attention is just about ready to panic, because it looks like if this continues where we are, we're going to have rain soon. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. The leaves are falling off the trees because of the lack of moisture in the ground. It's pretty serious. I think it's going to affect the crops. I know it's going to affect the cows. And so where does meat come from? Well, everybody knows where meat comes from. It comes from the supermarket. And we know where water comes from. It comes from the faucet. Rich, even what I'm saying is, I don't see any way out of this easily or quickly. But what I do see more of what I saw when I was applying to go to college. You can't go there, Finelli, because we are only accepting a different color. Your color is just, it's not this year or next year. Soon maybe we'll take your color, but not now. That's what happened, and I can see that happening again. I can. And that's gonna bring more racial tension. Because as Rich Scheben says so often and so well and so eloquently and so succinctly, we're being divided and conquered. And it doesn't seem to matter whether you're really good at what you do. You know, the days of going to school, as my dad would say, hey, Vin, you go to school and you work hard, really hard. And then you can go to more school and go to college. And then you work really hard. Then you get that job. And then you work really hard 40 hours a week so you can be the boss and work hard 60 hours a week. That's over. It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who you know. That's what the government's all about. They bring in the least qualified people. Why? Because they're related to the guys who make decisions. It's terrible. Working hard, the only thing that you can do, in my opinion right now, is to be an entrepreneur. Do what Kevin did. He's a young guy, he's in his 30s. He was going to college. He decided he wanted to be an appliance technician, and he now owns his own company. And he makes his own security. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having that security that my dad talked about, working hard for the company? You know, giving it your all, being loyal. And then the government says, you know what? We don't need any more of those. You're not working for a company that, is important. So you're going to have to shut down because we can't let you guys work together. You're too close. You're not essential. So your company gets shut down. Now you're out of work. And you've given it, the majority of your life's effort to be a team player for the company. Forget it. My advice to you is forget it. My advice to you is to become an entrepreneur. Learn everything you can about what you really love to do. And do that. That way you won't work a day in your life. That's what Rich does. Rich is having a ball. He's doing exactly what he wants to do. It's hard. It's heavy. It's risky in terms of getting hurt. Just like what I do. It's hard, heavy, far, risky in terms of getting hurt. But we love it. And we wouldn't change it. And so we don't work. I mean, it's difficult, yes. But we love it. So it's not like we hate going to work. We love going to work. But it's hard. Would you say that's true, Rich Scheben?
Oh, absolutely. I think we need to go back to basics: food, water, shelter, energy. We need to make it. We need to be debt-free in those categories. We need to build skill sets, create self-sufficiency in a depopulation agenda where nothing is real, everything is fake, everything is corrupt. And we're not anti-government at all, but we need to act like citizens who expect the government to work for us, not the other way around. When you have authoritarian, tyrannical, totalitarian, fascist situation that the left wants, controlling the media, eliminating citizen journalists, controlling the police, no due process, government schools, get rid of parent home schools, eliminate private property, the courts, lawyers, and judges selling out to the people in the name of justice, voter fraud, election fraud. It's not that we're anti-government. It's that we're anti-too big, too corrupt, too overspending, too incorporated, elite-controlled, manipulated, anti-constitutional government. We have to go back to the basics. You mentioned earlier in this last monologue about what do you believe, what's true, what's up, what's down. Well, here Amazon censors documentary about censorship. Think about that. Wrap your brain around that one. Facebook content moderator. If someone's wearing a MAGA hat, I'm going to delete them for terrorism. That means if you're a patriot and you think about your country and your people in your country, you're a terrorist. Think about that. Big tech pushes diversity while 2 out of 3 Silicon Valley hires are foreign-born. You see, folks, what they say is not what they do, and we're losing it. And we have allowed the divide and conquer strategies to get emotional. We've allowed people who don't do their reading and research to say, oh, that person hates blacks, that person hates Latinos, that person hates women, that person hates homosexuals, that person hates transgender, that person... Blah, blah, blah. You are poisoning us against yourselves because this is the elite blueprint. This is their playbook. This is their flow chart. They are literally degrading and disrespecting you. You're not going to empower anybody by lowering the bars of standards and expectations for a job. You're actually allowing yourselves to be insulted, your work ethic, your ability, and your intelligence when you say, I can't compete. My work is suboptimal. When you allow Elon Omar to basically degrade and disrespect the whole community and say Latinos cannot compete in a merit-based system, you're emboldening the aristocracy. You're allowing race baiting to occur. You're allowing the powers that be to manufacture perception, pity, guilt, and ideology. It's turning you from a thinker to a follower. When we allow those people to sway public opinion, to hold on to whatever narrative there is, whatever talking points there is, and whatever microphones are available, we're only rewarding America with mediocrity. All these words, democracy, accountability, diversity, fairness, tolerance, these are all BS words used to work against the people. You never, ever benefit any country, any group. You don't empower anybody by lowering the bars of standards and expectations for a job. You're destroying America. You're turning America into the law of diminishing returns. And opportunity and productivity and innovation and ingenuity will only be for the elite, will not be for us. And this is why we got to go back to the basics. We have to go back to food, water, shelter, and energy. We have to realize the nutrients and vitamins are in the soil. We have to realize that glyphosate and mechanicals and chemicals has destroyed a lot of pastures. We have to go back to gardening. We have to relearn 19th century skills, but dovetail those with 21st century technology. Vince, I just updated my new set of batteries. 12 batteries for a 24-volt system, okay? Cost me $1,500. So I'll get probably 8 years of power storage for $1,500. I have spent $1,500 before in a weekend. I'm getting 8 years of power. Folks, we need to start thinking outside the box. Off-grid living is not that hard. It's not hard at all. And it's actually fun. I mean, I've given tours. I give tours so often. You know, people I had a couple here a few days ago who, I don't know if they read my book, heard me give a talk, heard me on the radio. I can't remember what it was, but, you know, they showed up here again after being here like 8 years ago. And they're really worried. They left, I think it was Michigan, I can't remember. And they're just really worried about the Democrat blue states, and rightfully so. And people are looking, they're desperate. That's why there's so much
Rich, what are they going to do? Are they going to move? Are they going to leave Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my point is, they're going to be living off grid. And I'm just saying, for $1,500, folks, it's not that hard to learn how to think outside the box, how to grow your own. I love my garden. We had a little party here this weekend outside. So if there's any pandemic people out there that are scared about the virus, it was outside by the fire pit. Anyway, pretty much everything came from what we harvest. We had moose steaks, we had elk sausages, we had about 10 different greens from the garden. Everything that we consume, we harvest from nature. Okay?
Rich,
and
when we
it's
come
not
back,
hard.
when we come back, I've got a comment about what you said. It has to do with Cuba. And Cuba is now implementing what we've been saying here. They're saying, y'all got to do this. We'll be right back and talk about how Cuba is paying attention, because they have to. We're not taking any calls today, class. We'll be right back. Class, Cuba is an island. There's no country to the north and no country to the south. They are an island, and they have determined that they are in charge of their own destiny. Cuba imports about 2/3 of its food. And some of that is funded by visitors, tourism. Well, with the COVID-19 panic, that's ended. So they don't have the income from tourists. So they can't buy the 2/3 of the food that they would buy from other countries. They can't attack the other countries around them because they're an island. It's not like if they're hungry, like if the United States, if we were hungry, we'd go beat up the Canadians or the Mexicans. Or if the Mexicans were hungry, they could beat up the Americans. Or if the, so the three countries have borders in North America. So we could always fight it out for food. Well, Cuba can't do that because it's an island. It's 90 miles off the coast of Key West, Florida. So what are they doing? They're telling their people, y'all better start making your own food security. You better raise whatever you can on whatever land you can raise it on, because we're not going to be able to help you. And those tractors that you have, those antique tractors, you might want to forget about them because we don't know if we have any fuel for them. That's what's happening in Cuba. Could it happen here? Absolutely. We've been telling you for years this is coming, and here it is. It's happening right off the coast of the United States, 90 miles away. So we've been telling you to grow your own garden. If you have one, expand it. If you don't have one, start one. If you don't have a place for a garden, if you live in an apartment, get some 5-gallon buckets and get some seeds and take care of them and learn how. Because it's tough to get your garden to grow right the first time. Rich Scheben?
Well, everything is a learning curve. I know food, water, shelter, and energy sounds basic, but if we could harvest our own, make our own, and start thinking outside the box, we could. I've talked, as you know, Vince, I've given hours and hours and hours of lecture on Economic 101 updates, and I've talked about how we have unsustainable headwinds for future rate of growth. Basically, this pandemic has shut down our economy. Our economy, our GDP, our growth is measured by 70% consumption. We're just not going to have the numbers, at least for a while, that makes us look like America. So we have to start thinking about doing things on our own. When you look at, I've talked about central bank corrupt monetary policies and how Keynesian economics benefit the rich and our present demographic situation, and especially group identity politics, how it's absolutely destroyed and delegitimized work. We have to start thinking about what makes us happy, because growth and the measurements of growth, just like all GDP, inflation, deflation, unemployment, a lot of these numbers are fake and phony. And as we argue amongst ourselves, the wealthy is getting welfare. And you've heard me talk about stock buybacks, fractional reserve lending. Now banks don't even need money anymore, printing money out of thin air. I gave an article today, earlier in the show, about how the Fed is bailing out all these big companies, the Microsoft, the Apples, Berkshire Hathaway, all these, Warren Buffett's company. They try to make it look like they're trying to protect us based on what group you're in, but that's not the case. They want to divide us along the way distract us with bread and circuses and dumb us down every way they can in order to redistribute wealth from the little guy to the big guy. That's what's happening. It has nothing to do with what group you're in. They want to give that impression and perception. And that's why they put all this money into propaganda, hoax, false flags, lies, and gaslighting, et cetera, et cetera. But we have to realize they are not on our side. Because if they were, they wouldn't be replacing our jobs with robotics, automation, and artificial intelligence.
If they were on our side, they would stop taxing us out of our properties.
Of course, but if you're going to use common sense and logic, they're going to call you a racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, intolerant, violent, hater, conspiracy theory. So this is why we do this show, is to wake people up. We try and stick up for the little guy, the bottom 93% of income earners. We try to give outside-the-box ideas and solutions and suggestions. We try to practice what we preach. Vince, everything that we talk about doing, we're doing.
That's right, class. That's right. The things that you hear, we're not talk radio. We are do radio. We actually do what we say. We really do. And if you don't believe us, just challenge us, because we can answer the questions, because we do it. Rich Scheben, thanks so much for being with us. And, I'm thinking it's going to get worse. So you got your 22s, you got your food, you got your garden, you got your seeds, you got your tools, you got spare parts, and some cash. It's going to get worse. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.